So quite a local engine coming by here, or certainly was local, is this Clayton and Shuttleworth traction engine owned by Declan Lorden from Bandon in County Cork, yet another one of our long distance visitors here in Moynalty this weekend. This particular engine would have worked quite locally with the Farrelly brothers. Farrellys were threshing contractors who had several engines and thrashing sets on the go at one time throughout the harvest season. This engine, like I say, very local. It ended up in preservation with Mr. Ozzie Bennett from Johnstown in County Kilkenny. Ozzie would have been one of the early preservationists of steam engines here in Ireland, would have been very heavily involved in the National Steam Rally down in Strad Valley, and so he bought the engine into preservation, named it Betty's Pride, and the engine was rallied very extensively by Ozzie and his family for many, many years. Such was the interest in steam with the Lorden family, then Declan Lorden and his dad Sean bought the engine and brought it down to County Cork and carried out a very extensive restoration on it to keep it on the move. Again, the Lorden family rallied the engine very extensively up until several years ago, when finally she needed more work again, and she disappeared then while she was in the workshop in bits getting restored, but finally emerged again 2 years ago after a very extensive restoration, and it was great to see it. She was built in 1910, and like I say, worked very hard up around the county of Meath and up and around Louth as well with the Farrelly brothers, who were thrashing contractors, and then eventually ended up down the country as well. So great to see this engine back up again. That's Betty's Pride, Clayton and Shuttleworth, which were built in Lincoln. So another manufacturer here coming around as well. We've got two examples of Savages at Kings Lane. We've got a miniature version, which is owned by Mickey Brannigan from Castlewellan. And Mickey has built this engine over a period of about 6 to 9 months. An example of Savage's Samson engine. And it's been driven here this weekend by one of our German visitors, who actually has built an example of his own Samson engine. He's built a 3-inch version, so it's great to see him over here enjoying a visit here to Moynalty and taking a beautiful engine for a spin. So like I say, built by Mickey Brannigan from Castlewellan. Christopher Bayer is the man that's driving the engine there, and he's come over from Germany, especially here to be here with us this weekend in Moynalty. Mick bought this engine. It was actually in the bottom of a river for years and years, and Mick managed to get the remains of it dug out of the river and shipped back over to England. If you saw this engine when Mick bought it, you'd have thought, no way is he ever going to restore this thing, but such is the workmanship of Mick and his team. They've really worked a fantastic bit of effort on this engine and created a great restoration job and produced a beautiful engine. McLarens of Leeds. McLarens were based in just on the outskirts of the city of Leeds, right next to the works of John Fowler and Co. The two factories were actually back to each other, and this particular engine got exported out to Tasmania when she was built in 1911. Worked incredibly hard out in Tasmania up until the early 2000s, when the engine was imported back into Ireland again by Eamon McAleenan and received a very extensive restoration project there carried out by Eamon and his team. Now, Eamon has enjoyed this engine ever since and has been rallying it extensively all over Ireland, and has been over to the Great Dorset Steam Fair as well, where she performed very well in the heavy haulage arena there. But good to see this engine back out again and here at Moynalty this weekend. A beautiful engine, very, very powerful. A heavy haulage engine. You'll always know it's a heavy haulage engine because of the belly tanks for the extra water capacity. Now, these engines would have worked in teams of 3, pulling the heavy haulage loads around and pulling things like railway locomotives and all that kind of thing. So very, very powerful engines, and ably looked after here this weekend by Callum, Peter and Michael, who are Eamon's crew. And they've got a fair bit here this weekend as always. They've got 2 or 3 engines to look after, so busy men this weekend, but great to see this beautiful McLaren out. Coming around by the commentary point closest to me here now is a Burrell Road locomotive, which is owned by Jim Bob, who's come up from County Cork here this weekend to be with us. A beautiful engine. Jim Bob has been on the scene for many, many years. He's been involved very heavily with Steam, and great to see him back out with his own engine now again. And a beautiful example of a single crank compound engine. Single crank which means that it's twice. Coming around here from back to County Carlow with 4-inch Bowden wagon. Very much has steam in the blood, has Mark. His grandfather would have worked with steam over the years and had a beautiful little engine known as the Temple Maiden, which was the Joseph Evans engine. Burrell's engines for a quick spin around. This is mixed Mack, a McLaren. McLarens were built in Meath. This particular engine was exported straight out to Australia, where she worked very, very hard over the years. The engine somehow managed to find itself at the bottom of the river. The remains were dug out of the river in the early 90s. And Vintage Burrell ventured over from Yorkshire. He's been travelling over anyway. He used to have quite a lot of friends over in Australia and New Zealand. He was venturing over there several times a year. A lot of people say the ground, but they said no, they think some people earlier on today we mentioned the Bradley family from Kilrea and County Kerry, and this is our other engine. Now we've got Joe Bradley here with County Moore, the John Fowler engine, 1923. Fowlers were based in Meath, and there's many engines over the years, but there was 4 engine, this engine's been very one of our more long-distance visitors is George Sullivan, and he's going around there with George came up from Germany to be with us here this weekend in Moynalty. He was up in Strad Valley earlier on in the year, or earlier on in the week, at the National Steam Rally, but George has come over here this weekend to Germany to be here in Moynalty as well. So it's great to see George enjoying his time over here in Ireland. He's been before, but he enjoyed it so much he said he'd come back. And it's great to see him back again. It's a beautiful example of a Burrell crane engine. The Burrells were made in Texford in Norfolk, and they built many engines over the years. This is a beautiful example of a crane engine. These many haulage engines. Just exactly as George is displaying it here this weekend, the engine would have been used for pulling the load from town to town, and in the front of the crane on the front bed, lifting the load off. Certainly a great example of a scaled-down version of the full-size thing that's in the form. Coming around now is Betty's Pride, which is a Canadian Shuttleworth traction engine built in 1910. It's owned by Declan Lord and his family from Banton and County Cork. This engine is very much a local engine which would have worked with the Farrelly brothers. Farrelly were traction contractors up here. Very ably driven here by Mr. Harry Flynn, and being very co-piloted there by everyone in his family as well. This particular engine was built in 1917. It seems like all of us are by Chicago. It's on the Brooklyn family. This is for all the sugar factory started. But they still remember the sold engine Harrow bearings. the barrel here is actually stripped this engine of its wheels and locomotion work, just testing firebox and boiler and steam every day to sterilise the gas pump in the dairy. When it's not used as for that, so it can be the engine of the grid family where these derelict for 7 years until several years ago when they decided, right, enough is enough, we're tired of looking at this now, we're going to get it done and do it right. The final product is what you see here this weekend. It's been driven very ably this weekend by Mr. Kieran Flanagan, and Kieran is quite a local lad, but the engine is not local. It's from Clearystown in County Wexford. This is an engine which was built in 1910 and known as Daily Variant, beautifully owned by Mr. Hayes Rochford and his brother Charles from County Wexford. This engine was built in 1910. It was built in what is known as the faithful line. What you'll notice about this engine is that it's ever so slightly shorter and not quite as wide as other captain cars built by Marshall. This engine has worked all its work in life in the UK and ported over to Ireland several years ago by being remedial work that was needed on it. Example of an established traction engine, a miniature engine this time, which is being brought up here this weekend from County Cork to be with us. This engine has been travelling very extensively around Ireland and has done a couple of rallies over in the UK as well, which is great to see. This engine has been travelling very extensively. It's an established traction engine, and we're very, very pleased this year to see this Moynalty. Here this weekend, and it's a beautiful example of having been built by Mr. Mickey Brannigan from Castlewellan. This is a burrell known as Lorna Doone. She's owned by the Birmingham family from County Dublin. They've come from Bluebell in County Dublin to be here with us this weekend, so certainly not too far. Lorna Doone started life as a steamroller, and in the very, very early preservation days was converted into a tractor, as you see it here today. A very, very nice engine, very highly geared, so very fast on the road. And as you can see, you've got 2 cylinders on there as well. She's a double crank compound engine as well. A very, very fast engine, was brought into the country by the late David Sixsmith, and then owned then by the late Willie Birmingham, who restored the engine from top to bottom, and it's now with his family now, who rally it very extensively around Ireland. A beautiful engine known as Lorna Doone, like I say. She started life as a steamroller, then converted into a tractor, as you can see today. Following along behind, another product from the city of Leeds. Now, we had McLarens earlier on, but on the other side of the wall at the back of the factory were John Fowler's. John Fowler was a Quaker, and he produced many, many engines over the years, but being a Quaker, he had certainly a notion of helping his fellow man, and so he developed a ploughing engine. He developed ploughing engines to export out to the third world countries so that they could plough the land and certainly grow their crops in a much better condition than they had been before. Now, John Fowler Leeds also built many, many other types of engines other than ploughing engines. They did rollers and road locomotives, and they also built traction engines as well. And the Kilmalin Princess is an example of that. It's owned by the Keegan family, who have come here from County Dublin to be here with us this weekend. Not too far away either, with certainly another double crank compound engine as well. an engine which has worked all its life in Ireland, and so great to see that it is being preserved here in Ireland as well. She's just actually turned 100 years old as well this year, so great to see her out in her 100th year, enjoying many rallies around Ireland, and being driven of course there by Mr. Ross Keegan as well. Very capable engine man there. Coming in the gate, yet another product from Fowlers of Leeds. We've got Mr. Kevin Bradley with Blackjack, another engine which worked all its life in Ireland, actually in County Louth. This engine is actually a bit of a film star. She starred in the movie Michael Collins. She built in 1899, worked all her life in County Louth, and is now enjoying her preservation days with the Bradley family, with Kevin and Joe in Kilrea, County Derry. They bought it in April of 2018 to stand alongside their other engine as well, another Fowler which is known as Tamby Moore. And it's great to see the Bradley family enjoying many rallies as well with this engine. Certainly beautifully presented, as is everything that the Bradleys bring around to the rallies. And like I say, it starred in the 1997 movie Michael Collins. There is a scene in the movie where Michael Collins and Eamon de Valera are walking around the docks in Liverpool, and just in the background then this engine appears. So next time you're watching the movie, you'll actually spot it. It's got a canopy in the movie, but in more recent years the canopy was removed, which has certainly added to the aesthetic of the engine. She certainly looks a lot better now. Now, a manufacturer of steam engines from Ipswich is Ransom, Sims and Jeffries. Ransom's actually continued many years after they built engines and made farming implements and lawn mowers and things like that. This particular engine is the Boff, which was owned by the Kavanagh family previously, but is now owned by the Glynn family from County Carlow. Been very ably been driven here this weekend by Ethan Glynn and steered by Gavin McLaughlin. And this particular engine, like I say, built by Ransoms of Ipswich. And Ransoms actually sold a great number of engines here in Ireland for two reasons. The engines were very simply built engines, not much to go wrong, and if something did go wrong, the local blacksmith could repair it. But not only that, they were the only manufacturer of engines to offer them at hire purchase. So it certainly worked for an awful lot of the farmers to afford these engines. They could buy it at hire purchase, and made it much easier for them to own their own steam engine. So that's why an awful lot of them would have ended up in this country over the years. So a beautiful engine, that Ransom's engine known as the Boss, owned by the Glynn family from County Carlow. Then followed along behind by the Colleen Bawn. The Colleen Bawn is a Marshall traction engine. Marshalls were built in Gainsborough, and this particular example was built in 1900, and it was built by Marshalls, who had what was known as their Britannia Works in Gainsborough. This engine was owned by the Keating family from Spink in County Laois, right up in the middle of Laois, in the middle of nowhere. And the Keating family were thrashing contractors. They had this engine, they had another engine called the Harvest Queen, and one or two others as well. And they all got paired up with a thrashing set and worked very hard throughout the harvest season. The engine was one of the first engines into preservation in Ireland, and then eventually bought by the Kelly family from County Wexford, who have brought it here this weekend alongside several other exhibits as well. So great to see it being steered there by Mr. Raymond Kelly and his son Dylan. So great to see the Kelly family up here this weekend with that beautiful engine, the Colleen Bawn.